All right, this is a case illustrating inventory write-downs when the lower of cost or net realizable value method is appropriate. So if you, that first question, look back and see when the lower of cost or net realizable value is appropriately used. What a Croc shoe store sells 5 products as follows: men's sandals, women's sandals, boys' sandals, girls' sandals, and logo shirts. At the end of a particular period, there are 1,000 pairs of men's sandals, 800 pairs of women's sandals, 600 pairs of boys' sandals, 200 pairs of girls' sandals, and 600 logo shirts in ending inventory. The historical cost, therefore the unit cost of those, is 20 for the men's sandals, 30 for the women's sandals, 6 for the boys' sandals, 14 for the girls' sandals, and 28 for the logo shirts. Thus, the FIFO inventory is signed inventory cost of the men's sandals is 1,000 times 20, or 20,000. The women's sandals, 800 pairs times 30, $24,000. The boys' sandals, 600 pairs times 6, or $3,600. The girls' sandals, 200 at 14, or $2,800. The logo shirts, 600 at 28, which is $16,800. The sum of the inventory at FIFO cost is $67,200. And then here's some more information. The current unit selling price for the men's sandals is $32. For the women's sandals is $36. For the boys' sandals is $16. The girls' sandals $12. And the logo shirts $26. So just eyeballing that, well, unit selling price looking like the men's sandals are going to be just fine in terms of not being impaired. Women's sandals, pretty good. A little margin there. Boys' sandals, quite good. But when we get to the girls' sandals and the logo shirts, we appear to have an issue where they're selling a little soft. We are not able to sell them at their cost. Okay, a little more information to know in this case. The sales staff receives a commission of 15% of all sales. Let's keep that in mind. When they make a sale, the salesperson gets 15%. The company uses a perpetual inventory system and applies the FIFO cost flow assumption. That's going to tell us which method applies, the lower of cost or net realizable value or the lower of cost or market. The normal profit margin for each product is 40% of the selling price. That is, for every $100 of sales, $60 is the cost of the unit and $40 is the gross profit to the company. That's the normal selling price. Okay, so required. Given that the company uses a perpetual inventory system with the FIFO cost flow assumption, should the company use lower cost or net realizable value or lower cost or market to evaluate the inventory valuation at year end? And then, so what this one says, what method should you apply? And then the second requirement is, well, kind of gives away the answer, but make sure you know why. Determine the carrying value of ending inventory, assuming the lower of cost or market or net realizable value rule is applied to individual products, and then prepare any adjusting journal entry necessary for the write-down. And then the third thing we'll do separately is we'll say, okay, what if we applied the lower of cost or net realizable value to the entire inventory? Again, prepare any adjusting inventory entry for inventory write-downs. Okay, so now if you haven't, please go ahead and pause the video and work the case. and I will see you when you return. And welcome back. So remember the rule here regarding question number 1, requirement number 1. Lower of cost or net realizable value is used with all inventory methods and inventory cost flow assumptions except LIFO and the retail inventory method. Thus, since this company is applying FIFO, we learned it'll be the lower of cost or net realizable value. And again, net realizable value is the selling price minus the cost and to finish and deliver. See the general notes in the previous video for details there. All right, now we're going to apply those rules. And we're going to apply them twice. We're going to apply them at the product level and then at the total inventory level. The company can choose either. All right. Before we do so, let's review our notes. Lower of cost or net realizable value. Well, we know it's applied if they're using any cost flow assumption other than LIFO or any method other than the retail inventory method. And it compares inventory cost to the inventory's net realizable value, where net realizable value is calculated as what the company expects to realize from the sale of the inventory, which is the selling price minus the cost to get it to the customer, basically. So let's apply those rules. And I set up a little table. This is totally my table format. You may like another one, and that is 100% cool. If you made yourself a table, by all means, make that your table because it made sense to you. Make that your table format. All right, but my table format starts with the product, the quantity, and the cost, where the cost is FIFO unit cost in this case. And that's cost. Historical cost. And then we'll compare that to NRV, net realizable value, where the per unit selling price minus the per unit commission minus any per unit shipping is equal to the net realizable value. Just put a little minus sign here and a minus sign here. All right, and I'll show you these other columns. I have a column for lower of cost or net realizable value, which is going to compare these two groups. We'll remind ourselves what FIFO total cost is and net realizable value total cost. That's going to extend for the quantity, and then we'll pick the lower. Let's look at the men's sandals. There are 1,000 pairs at 20. There's the unit cost. The net realizable value is 32 minus 480, where 480 is 32 minus the 15% commission. We have no shipping costs because let's assume this is a retail store. So the net realizable value is $27.20. And the lower of the cost or the net realizable value is 20. And that total FIFO cost is that net lower of cost or net realizable value times quantity. 20,000. That's the FIFO cost. The net realizable value total cost is 2720 times 1,000, and we will take the lower of cost or net realizable value, and that will be the carrying value of the men's sandals in ending inventory. Same process with women's sandals. Unit cost 30. Net realizable value $30.60, $30.60, which is the selling price minus the per unit commission. The lower of those two, it's close, but it's 30. We're not making a lot of profit on these ladies' sandals, but we're making a little bit. So the FIFO total cost is 30 times 800, or 24,000. The net realizable value total cost is 24,480, which is, again, the quantity times, but you know what? Yeah, is the quantity times $30.60. Let's mark the note up here. 2720 times quantity, and then that's a note for your notes. And then we're going to use that same calculation for each row here, where this one's going to be 3060 times the quantity of 800 for 24,480. And the lower of those two is the $24,000 FIFO total cost. So we are good to go. The boys' sandals. Same process. Cost 6. Net realizable value $13.60. The lower of the two is 6. And so now we extend the two, and the lower is that 3,600. So that's our lower of cost or net realizable value. And then we come to the two that actually have an issue with them, and we anticipated they would. The cost of the girls' sandals is 14, and net realizable value is 1020. So 1020 is the lower. Extended, we have 2,800 as the FIFO total cost, but the net realizable value total cost is 1020 multiplied by the 200 pairs, or 2,040. And that's going to be a bit impaired. Logo shirts, cost is 28. Net realizable value is 2210. So we're going to take the lower of 28 and 2210, which is 2210, obviously. Extend it out, that's 13,260, which is far less than 16,800. And these are also impaired. And there is the total inventory amounts at net realizable and cost. But we're doing this on a per unit basis, so we're going to have to write down the girls' sandals and the logo shirts. We're going to write down the girls' sandals from 2,800 to 2040. $760 write down. And we're going to write down the logo t-shirts from 16,800 to 13,260. Which is 3,540. So our total write down is 4,300. Okay, so again, that's the process when we do it on a per unit basis. to master that. Please rework the case if you struggled with that. I hope that this sort of detail helps you to take those rules and apply them in a very standardized way, and also commit them to memory for the exam in here in the CPA exam. Now, here's the good news. Applying it on the total inventory level is much less complex. We already did the work. The table is the same thing. This table looks exactly the same. I've gone through all of these. But here's the deal. Here, this is the key metric. On a total inventory basis, the amount by which the men's sandals and the women's sandals and the boys' sandals are profitable far exceeds the loss position upcoming for the girls' sandals and the logo shirts. So if we do it on an inventory basis, lower of cost, FIFO cost, or market value, well, the lower of cost, the market value, the net realizable value is not lower than cost, so we're fine. Applying the lower of cost or net realizable value at the total inventory level, inventory would be reported on the balance sheet at $67,200. A write-down is not necessary because the inventory value is not impaired at the total inventory level. The losses associated with girls' sandals and logo shirts are being offset, more than covered, by profits associated with the other products. All right, that is lower of cost or net realizable value. I hope it all makes sense. If it doesn't, by all means, go back and read and then watch the general video and then rework the case from scratch. And of course, do your other many cases that are available to you in your homework. And also you can have one written by ChatGPT to work on. I'm hip, aren't I, to point that out? Thank you very much. I knew it. I knew you'd think so. All right. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next video where we will examine the same set of facts, but the company is going to be using LIFO, and therefore we are going to have to apply the lower of cost or market to determine any write-downs necessary. So we will reinforce how the lower of cost or market is applied. Thank you for your attention. See you in that video.